Multivariate presentation on factors affecting civic participation in Algeria.
Our research looks to the question of what are the direct and indirect factors influencing civic participation in Algeria. Our study uses the dataset Arab Barometer 2007 and focuses on the country Algeria, which has 1,300 respondents. Our methods include reliability analysis, bivariate cross-tabulation, and bivariate and multivariate regression. Our initial search of the literature supported a positive relationship of trust in political institutions influencing a respondent's participation in civic organizations. In light of this, the study will see which factors influence trust in political institutions and, in turn, the direct and indirect effects those factors have on civic organization.
Leonard argues that political trust is a central aspect of democratic participation. Dalton finds that income is negatively correlated to political trust and that declines in political trust over time have been greater among those of a higher income. Hackverdian and Main argue that citizens with more education are more likely to recognize incompetence in government and lose trust in political institutions as a result. Hutchinson and Johnson find that political trust increases as perceptions of the political situation in a country also increase. Finally, Collier finds that citizens' trust in the government and political institutions decrease as perception of corruption levels in their country increase. The first hypothesis is that greater trust in the existing political institutions increases civic participation among respondents. The second hypothesis is that higher income per capita has a negative relationship with political trust. The third hypothesis is that higher education is negatively correlated with trust in political institutions. The fourth hypothesis is that a positive view of the political situation in the country has a positive effect on trust in political institutions. The fifth hypothesis is that a higher perception of corruption has a negative effect on respondents' trust in political institutions.
The dependent variable civic participation is an index including questions related to a respondent's participation in signing petitions, attending protest marches, and participating in elections and organizations and involvement in political parties. The alpha score is 0.64, which means that these indicators are related enough to combine into an index. Despite an alpha if item deleted score of 0.68 for participation in elections, it is at the discretion of this study that elections should be included as a vital form of civic participation. This yielded an index for the dependent variable ranging from 0 to 5, low to high civic participation. The variable representing political trust is composed of an index in which indicators are all asking for a respondent's trust in the Prime Minister, Parliament, police, the courts, and political parties. The alpha score of 0.87 means that these indicators are related enough to be combined into an index ranging from 0 to 15, low to high trust.
Additional independent variables include X2, income, as measured by annual household income, X3, level of education, which is a dummy variable coded into post-secondary and less than post-secondary categories, which allows for the comparison of a high level of education to a low level, as supported by the literature. X4, view of the current political situation in the country, which ranges from very bad to very good, and X5, perception of levels of corruption among government officials. Responses here range from hardly anyone is corrupt to almost everyone is corrupt. A bivariate cross-tabulation of civic participation by political trust produces the following results. The relationship is statistically significant. However, the tau-p score of 0.11 shows a very weak positive relationship, suggesting that there may be other factors affecting the dependent variable.
A multiple regression with perception of political situation, post-secondary education dummy, income, and perceived corruption as independent variables, and political trust as the dependent variable shows a significant model which explains 37% of the variation in the dependent variable. It also shows that perception of the current political situation has the highest effect with a b-value of 7.6 on political trust when controlling for the other three variables and is significant. Income has an extremely small and just barely significant effect. Perceived corruption levels has a high effect which is also statistically significant, and interestingly, the post-secondary education dummy variable shows that those who are educated above secondary school trust their political institutions 0.72 units less than those who are less educated. Since perception has the highest effect on trust in political institutions when controlling for income, education, and corruption, it was put into a bivariate regression in order to see its direct effect on civic participation. This model yields a significant R-square of just 0.02 but a high b-value of 0.89, which is significant. A potential explanation for this could be according to Eric Plutzer's theory of upward limit of R-squared. According to this model has only an upward limit of 0.4 R-squared.
A multiple regression was then performed, adding political trust as a control variable, and it is a significant indicator. With the addition of political trust as a control, the effective respondent's view of the political situation becomes insignificant. This is evidence of a spurious relationship.
This demonstrates a simple analysis of the initial model with a multiple regression between trust in political institutions by income, education, view of the current situation, and perceived corruption, and a bivariate regression of trust in political institutions and civic participation. Calculation of the indirect effects show that both perceived corruption and post-secondary education have small and negative indirect effects on civic participation. The variable with the highest effect, view of current situation, was tested directly against civic participation and yielded a significant b-value of 0.89, which means that for every 1 unit increase in respondents' favor of the political situation, there was a 0.9 unit increase in civic participation.
This model shows the relationship between view of the current political situation and civic participation while controlling for political trust. This appears to be evidence of an interpretation relationship, with the respondents' view of the current political situation affecting their trust in political institutions, which in turn affects levels of civic participation. To conclude our findings, a modest positive relationship was found between political trust and civic engagement, partially confirming Hypothesis 1. Factors that affect trust in political institutions include respondents' view of the current situation, perceived level of corruption, and level of education, confirming Hypotheses 3, 4, and 5. The strongest indicator among these respondents was a view of the current political situation. When the effect of the perceived political situation on civic participation was measured, political trust was found to be a mediating variable in this relationship. It can be concluded that the view of the current political situation affects political trust, which affects levels of civic participation.
An interesting point of future study would look more closely at the role of income and trust in political institutions and civic participation comparatively between industrialized and non-industrialized countries. This is because, as literature supports a positive strong relationship, this relationship is not supported in our study's findings. Thank you.